Okay.
Director Professor Ekrem Savaş, esteemed academics, respected colleagues, dear students and honored participants, welcome to our event, International Design Conference focused on trend and technology in the digital age, Session 6, Career Journey and Digital Design, hosted online by our university. I extend my respectful greeting to you all. I would like to express my gratitude to our rector, Professor Ekrem Savaş, who has always motivated us with his continuous support for academic development and artistic production. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to the Director of the Leather, Textile and Ceramics, Design Application and Resource Center, Associate Professor Eren Öner, and the esteemed senior management of our university. Now, before proceeding to presentation, I would like to leave the floor to Associate Professor Eren Öner, Director of the DTS Design Center, to make the opening remarks.
Thank you, dear Ceyda. What a perfect start for us. Thank you so much. Hi again, dear Anna. It's great to see you here, and we are very happy to make an interview and also the presentation with you. Maybe I can start with a little bit giving an information from our side. As Ceyda said that we are Leather, Textile and Ceramic Design Application and Research Center. We call this just Leather, Textile, Ceramic Design Center actually. Our center is the only public design center in Turkey. And we operate like a design studio on an international scale. And we provide design, collection, and product support to private and public institutions in the fields of leather, textile, and ceramics. It cooperates internationally. As you see from ceramic department, our teammate Ceyda, and all of our team includes designers and engineers, each of whom has worked in the private sector and are experts in their fields. We try to make different studies, different collections, different design activities, and one of these actually preparing some interviews and also the conferences. This conference is for this reason very important for us. Actually, we are in the Turkey, but we want to touch all of our partners, and for this reason, this invitation is very important. And thank you again, Anna. I'm very excited to listen to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In this session, I am honored to welcome a very valuable guest who is known for her competence and academic knowledge in the field of ceramics. Anna CALLURI HOLCOMBE is a professor at the University of Florida. Our paths cross with our esteemed guest, who has accomplished many original works in the field of ceramic art throughout her academic career about 10 years ago at Anadolu University Faculty of Fine Arts Department of Ceramics. I am very pleased to meet again today on the same platform with our esteemed professor who had a deep impact on her environment with her professional knowledge, artistic vision, and contribution to the academy. Anna CALLURI HOLCOMBE, who is well respected in the academic community with her numerous scientific publications, projects, and awards, will share her presentation title, Where Technology and Tradition Meet, with us today. Before starting her speech, I would like to give a brief background of our esteemed guest's academic career and scientific contributions. Anna CALLURI HOLCOMBE spent her career studying and teaching. She graduated cum laude with a BA in art education from Montclair State University in 1974. She received her MFA in ceramics from Louisiana State University in 1977. Teaching in higher education since 1978, her first position was at Elian Westlake University, Bloomington, then at State University of New York at Brockport. In 1994, she was appointed head of the art department at Kansas State University and served in that position for 6 years. From 2010, she served as director of the School of Art and Art History at the University of Florida, taught for the next 12 years, and is currently a professor emeritus. CALLURI HOLCOMBE exhibits internationally, having worked in shows in Italy, France, Germany, Hungary, Turkey, Switzerland, South Korea, China, and Australia. She was awarded the Rotary Gold Medal for the 46th International Exhibition, Faenza, Italy in 1989. Her work is respected in numerous international journals such as Ceramics Technical, New Ceramics, and Ceramica. In 1997, she was honored as a fellow of the National Council on Education in the Ceramic Arts, NCCA. She is an elected member of the IAC since 2002. She was awarded a Fulbright to Turkey 2013, where she taught at Anadolu University. For detailed information, please see www.annaholcombe.com. Dear participants, without further ado, I leave the floor to Professor Anna CALLURI HOLCOMBE to introduce this valuable contribution. Dear Professor, I would like to thank you in advance for your presence and contribution, and I would like to state that we will listen to your presentation with interest, please.
Thank you so very much. Let me share. And all right. Can you see okay? Are we ready? Good. First of all, I want to thank you both for this amazing invitation, and of course the administration and the committee that I'm sure has been working very hard on this conference. So I'm so pleased to be presenting here today. The presentation will describe the 3D process that I have been working with, that I use to create my ceramic work, including other artists using this technology and students using this technology as a tool. I've been living in Florida, USA, and teaching at the University of Florida in Gainesville since 2007. I'm recently retired. I love the exotic nature of the plants and wildlife there, and it has made a major impact on my work. It gives me inspiration in many forms. I also love to travel and have been to every continent but Africa and Antarctica. I am currently working as a Fulbright specialist, hoping to visit Ghana in the near future. But I find this inspiration everywhere I go. Now, China plays a primary role in my travels. I've been there 15 times and hope to return soon. I enjoy the play between the old China and the new China, and they seem to exist seamlessly there. So it's easy to see these when you're in China, to see the old and buildings that were very old and ancient, and then the very modern, in this case, the Pudong in Shanghai. The highlight of my travels was my Fulbright in Turkey at Anadolu University in Eskişehir. The culture and the history of Turkey is rich and deep. I made friends that remain true until today. I had the privilege of teaching a ceramics class, and I loved working with the students there. It was an unbelievable experience that has in many ways changed my life. When I travel and explore the world, I can't help but make connections. Nature is the one place that I look for these connections. Interestingly, the word nature has multiple definitions, ranging from a person's inherent character to an organ's function and to the flora and fauna found in the landscape. Ambiguities I find in nature give me much inspiration to draw for my work. I am particularly interested in the juxtapositions that I create. One of these is between nature and then the current digital technologies. I published this article in 2011 in the international journal Ceramics Technical. I co-wrote with one of our grad students at the time, Daniel Tankersley. In 2010, I initiated the process that eventually landed a grant from the University of Florida Office of Research to set up and equip a 3D fabrication laboratory. It was a collaboration between the College of the Arts, School of Art and Art History, and the College of Design, Construction, and Planning Architecture. The facility's original equipment included laser cutters, handheld 3D scanners, two rapid prototyping machines, all capable of printing physical 3D objects from digital files. Also had a CNC router. This has greatly expanded over time. Expansions have included desktop printers and bigger laser cutters, metal printer, and a water jet cutter, all in a larger, well-vented lab space. With almost daily developments in 3D scanning and printing, the ceramic artist can feel overwhelmed and even threatened. The popular theory of craft requiring the touch of the hand is incongruous with the reality of using computer software and a machine to produce an object. Yet artists have the ability to use this technology, which has recently become much more economically realistic and accessible. It can be used to design, model, and prototype, and even create ceramic objects. I make the case that this new and accessible technology is just another tool in the toolbox available to the ceramic artist. A bit about my process. Scanning is an important part. Photogrammetry reconstructs a scene from multiple photographs of an object taken from various angles and positions. The algorithms involved find points in common between the images. And from this data, a point cloud, a three-dimensional coordinate system, can be derived, which can be used to generate a mesh, a sort of skeleton that can be adjusted and then prepared to print. Scanning circumvents the need to become experienced in sophisticated 3D modeling that can take a long time to learn. So this is basically a shortcut or a way to get a mesh without having to be too involved in very often difficult to use 3D software. I use a simple free downloadable software to then adjust my file and prepare it as an STL, which the printer then can understand and be able to print. Here you can see a high quality 3D image from a scanner, the plastic model on the top right, and it's the white one, and then the third model of an altered file printed on plastic filament. A model was made of the model, and then you can see the resulting porcelain slipcast bowl. So this original artichoke then was opened up digitally to look like a bowl, and then I was able to take that model. I'll explain some of that in just a few minutes about how that then becomes a clay object. The University of Florida's library has been investing in 3D printing and scanning. This is another interesting development in our field, where the accessibility of these kinds of equipment can be as easy as going to the library, where you would also get books. Here I scanned a number of objects for printing using the NextEngine 3D scanner. I scanned a pawpaw fruit to impressive results. The NextEngine software is easier to use and interfaces well with other software programs. It has its own mechanical turntable and its own light source. So it's not a very expensive and a very easy to use scanner to get some very good 3D images. Lately, however, I have been using the structure scanner, and that too I can get from our library, signing it out just like a book. This scanner is very portable. It's inexpensive in comparison to others and works with an iPad. So I could take it when I travel, I could take it outside, I can bring it inside into my studio. At left to right, the plastic model is made into a mold. So that orange form, then a plaster mold is made and then removed. And then in the middle, you can see my molds that are all banded together with a hole on top. And I pour the liquid clay or slip in there. Then I leave it to sit for a little bit, enough to where I get enough of a thickness for the wall of the piece, and then pour out the remaining slip. Then it dries for a little bit. Usually a few hours later, I'm able to open the molds. And then on the right, you can see that some of the finished pieces that came out of the mold, they're not finished in terms of casting, but I still have to do some cleanup work. And there's a lot of use of the hand, even though this is a digital type technology, I still use my hand quite a bit. And then now they're ready for their first firing and then eventually a glaze firing. Porcelain is my clay of choice, which comes with a certain set of parameters. Taking natural objects and using them in a digital form creates a juxtaposition that I find interesting. The work evokes the vessel, but hopefully begins to transform it in the minds of the viewer to more organic form that suggests relationships and often takes on the genre of a still life. One other quality that I appreciate is beauty. I find that in nature, and I hope to imbue it in my work. Another is translucency related to beauty, where light becomes an important element. And as you can see, I often work in a modular fashion, making lots of these forms and then arranging them. Searching for a structure to arrange and display the cast pieces, I started looking in resale or repurposed stores, and I seek out interesting metal found objects that can hold clay objects. I'm influenced by the still life and consider these to be still life arrangements. Here are some more recent pieces in that series. Again, found objects, a combination of slip cast and then hand-built parts. I like the challenge of finding this metal object and working out how to arrange the clay parts. This piece is on a small light box or light table. The base is made with stencils of various thicknesses that are pressed into the clay slab so that the porcelain has thick and thin areas, and the light comes through in the areas that are thin. I made this piece in Jingdezhen, China, while teaching and working at the Jingdezhen Ceramics University the summer of 2019. Jingdezhen is famous for having found and invented porcelain over 1,000 years ago. Now that I'm retired, I have been working on more functional forms, in this case, some small vessels. These are all forms that I find in nature, such as a mango, squash, tangelo. And so I've taken those very mundane, everyday objects and then made them into to clay pieces of porcelain, which raises the, I don't want to say necessarily the value of them, but the importance of them because they're made in this fine porcelain clay. I've continued to work on combining my porcelain with found metal objects. Here are 3 of the vases that I've arranged in a metal candle holder with some other pieces of porcelain imitating vines and leaves. So during the 2015 and 2016 academic year, I collaborated with a materials engineer through a UF Catalyst grant. Some of the funding that I received went to purchasing a Delta Wasp 2040 made by an Italian company shown on the left. That began my journey of 3D printing in clay. With the help of graduate students, we held weekly 3D printing sessions open to all interested. I have available modeling software on a computer as well as Simplified 3D, which prepares the STL file for printing. Through this interdisciplinary grant, I worked with UF materials engineer, Dr. Juan Nino, on this Delta type 3D printer, allowing us to print objects directly. We researched the development of a stronger and refined than currently available material to print with. In the end, we found bagged clay processed to the correct consistency worked fine. The UF Ceramics program soon after purchased a second printer. The Delta Wasp that I just told you about produces excellent detail, but it's very difficult to use, and because you have to deal with not only the clay consistency, but the speed. So there's a compressor involved as well. So the compressor allows it to extrude the clay. Delta printers are XYZ printers. That top piece is what moves around. but it requires a lot of adjustment to make sure that it prints well. It's definitely a better print than most others, but it's a little more difficult to work on. So we bought a second printer, which is a 3D PotterBot 9. It offers less definition, so it's not quite as precise as the Delta, but it is a much more user-friendly type of printer. It is easier to use as there are less factors to deal with to get a good print. So the tube here that you see in the middle and a little bit on the right, that moves, and that stays still, and then the base moves on this one. So it's a little different way of printing. Both machines, the clay is processed ahead through a pug mill to the proper consistency, which is a little bit on the softer side than you would use for, let's say, hand building a piece. And then I put in the tubes of the printer, and then it's ready to go. This was my office. You could see the students that would come in, and they could bring a file and we would help them print it. Or lots of times students would just come in and watch. Sometimes they had a class that they had to make something on the printer. I taught a class where as part of their experience, they had to print something with clay. And so it was a very relaxed atmosphere for them to come and go and come and watch and try some printing. I had like a computer that had the proper software so that we could then tell the printers what to print. And I do say that I use the word we because this is a group project to get things to work successfully. At UF Ceramics, we're fortunate to have a teaching lab specialist that works with us on the printing. Derek Reavers has managed to improve both printers in a number of ways, from clay storage for consistency and improved pressure for the wasp, and many other technical aspects. Printing in clay needs both technical and mechanical maintenance. We find we are often left to our own devices with little technical support from the manufacturers. It truly is a new frontier in many ways, although now we can say that this has been going on for a while. And but if you're up for a challenge and want to try something new, you could see the joy on students' faces when we do get something to print. And I show this because it's a failure, obviously. It collapsed. Probably the clay was too soft. And this is not an unusual result, a common result after hours of work. Yet through these failures and working with each other to solve the problem, the results kept getting better. So this was part of our learning process and being able to use this. There's very little in the way of classes and coursework to learn some of these technologies. And so things like fail and you figure out what happened that was wrong, and then you're able to learn something new that way. Here are a couple of my assemblages using the printer. I utilize the 3D printing in clay, and then for on the left, I actually also incorporated some of the 3D scanned and printed models, and there's a little bit of hand building going on as well. I remind myself that despite the software and printers, the technique is basically coil building, one used to build with clay for centuries. So it's new and yet not so new technology. I focus on the fact that 3D printing is, again, as I said before, a tool in my toolbox, one thing that I can use to improve my work or change my work or try some forms that I haven't been able to hand build before. This piece was made for an exhibition in Italy. And it included half of the artists were Italian and the other half were international artists. I happen to be both. My family is originally from Italy, and I am currently a dual citizen. And so I thought it would be interesting to connect my roots, and the 3D printer helped me do that. This porcelain tile has a decal of Google map of the region in southern Italy where my family is from. The next level in the middle here has a 3D clay printed terrain of the town and that my family is from. There's actually a site you can go on that will show the terrain around the world, and you can choose different parts of it, and it will send you a STL file so you can 3D print it. So that's in the middle, and then the gold heart, the 3D model, nestles into the valley, expressing my love for my roots. I was honored by an invitation from Professor Min-Chung Jang. He was a former visiting scholar at the University of Florida. He worked with us for an academic year, and then director of the School of Product Design, College of the Arts and Design. I was asked to teach a 3D clay printing course at the prestigious Jingdezhen Ceramic Institute in May of 2019. Here you could see some of the students we worked with, one of the printers we had, and then Min Chung at the computer. The 3D printing class was for interior design students with very little experience working directly in clay. The students 3D modeled a vessel form on the computer. They prepared files, and then we sat down and discussed the best file for them to use and if it needed any changes. One of the things that, since I did not have experience working in ceramics, I could see that some of these would collapse because they were maybe over too far or too high or too thin at the bottom, etc. So we adjusted the files so that they have the most likely chance of printing. So we test printed them, and then we actually printed the final objects. The students then had the pieces fired, purchased glaze, and fired them again. And it was truly a rewarding teaching experience. Here are just some of the, there were about, I think, 30 students in the class, and these are just a handful of their designs. They were confined to a vessel for their first project, and many of the students started out either with an oval, a square, or some kind of free-form base that would, in some cases, develop into the twisting of a form, giving the object a great deal of visual movement. The evidence of the coil is hard to escape in this technique, yet the texture and patterns developed in the surfaces through the printing process made for some unique expressions. Most impressive was the variety of results presented, some organic, some mechanical, and others architectural. So this is from students that have not worked in clay before. So it's pretty amazing what they're able to come up with in terms of design. I'll now present some artists I feel have diverged in their use of 3D printed ceramic objects. I see their work as breaking the boundaries of a once rather limited use of this technology. Some of the trends I see in this arena are combination of mixed materials, deconstructing and reconstructing, and then evidence of the process. Early on in my work, I used a resin printer that produced very clean and detailed models. At one point, I realized I was covering up my process. There was no way to know when you looked at the finished piece that I actually had 3D modeled it. So I now often show things like the pixelization that is created with 3D scanning and modeling, and the modeling building process shows the building up of coils and does not hide it. So I like this juxtaposition, these opposites that creates between my subject of nature and the technologies that I use. A few artists of note that are working in 3D clay printers. One of the major, I would say, force in a sense, because he's been doing this for a while now. He is born in South Africa and then moved to England. He has an MA from Royal College in London, and his digital pots is a blog, and he enters in there his own work on ceramics 3D printing. He states, I have long used computer software to develop new ceramic forms. With an interest in the hidden numerical code that underprints all nature, I have developed a working process whereby the shapes of these pots are written in computer code. So he's trusting algorithms to form his pieces. This digital information is passed to a studio-based, do-it-yourself 3D printer. Although I have also seen him use the Delta printer quite often Delta printer quite often that's manufactured. And he adapted it to print in clay. Layer by layer, the pots are printed out, a sort of mechanical pottery coil building. So even he acknowledges the fact that we're still just building in coils. After printing, the ceramic is fired and glazed in a normal way. I mention him as well because he has a great website, and he has basically manuals on how to print in 3D object in clay, lots of different recipes and different information that is very helpful to anybody that's trying to work in this field. Brian Sibbiz teaches at State University of New York in New Paltz, and I actually went to visit his program. He was one of the early people to take on, in academia, to take on a 3D clay printer. He says, I find myself also looking at technology from a more fundamental perspective, extensions of our bodies and minds, enhancement of our senses, strength, productivity, understanding, communication, and vision. I make work that describes the corporality which is studied, engineered, and enhanced in a vain effort to heighten experience regardless of consequences. It imitates binary gadgets and gizmos that serve as both facilitators and insulators to the goals we seek. It considers the relation between the visceral and the mechanical, because cause and effect, and between the practicality and uselessness of the things we do. So here we have some of his more functional work on the left and the middle, and then something that's a bit more ceramic sculptural, although it's still a vessel. Ellen Shawn is an adjunct professor in the Fine Arts and Ceramic Studio, ceramic studio supervisor at Lesley University College of Art and Design in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where she's taught ceramics and 3D courses since 2002. She says, my most recent work investigates 3D clay printing, geometric vessels, alluding to both the mathematical symmetry of platonic solids and to the abstracted gesture and stance of the human figure. On the right, you can see a couple of her pieces, one functional bowl and then a little more sculptural vessels. And I admire her work with lighting. The porcelain, once thin, will, as I mentioned earlier, will let light shine through. It's translucent. And she has actually captured that translucency by using 3D printing and then stringing them up with lights. And Emre Can, who is, and I'm probably not saying this correct, Bilecek Şebe Edibalor. He's on the faculty in the faculty ceramics department and has been also working with 3D printing. He was a graduate student at Anadolu University when I was there, and then he's gone on with his degree to teach at the school. He calls this series The Power of Nature, and it's 3D printed porcelain. Emre states, as a tool to shape ceramic use, I use a three-dimensional printer. Nature surrounding us carries both a material and intuitive feeling and an internal structure that affects us. The feelings and the impacts that these structures have on us are the most important factors affecting me. While nature is so organic, digital media is so artificial. My goal is to transform the artificial forms from a machine into an organic structure with different touches, to capture the opposition between artificial and organic, and to deform the ceramic sculptures produced by a machine to reveal new forms. So this kind of push and pull that most of us that are working in this field happens because we're working with the machine, but often nature is our subject. And so there's a bit of trying to resolve those two issues in our work. And I wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, I would like to thank you once again for your contribution and valuable sharing. And I would like to state that we will be very pleased to welcome you face to face in our future events.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay, so our recording then stopped.
Yeah, thank you, dear Anna.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your.
So was that okay? And it's about a half hour like you want.
Now I'm ending the system.